Hi, Jamie. Okay, well, I'm going to give you a bit of a run through on the software for the Texas Supercar side of things, touching on Ferrari, Aston Martin, but not just on how we communicate, but also all the technical information that's in there. Yeah, hopefully it'll give you a decent idea of what you're capable of doing with it. So we're on the main screen here, so we're going to car. So you can see it's split into categories, so we'll head into Supercar. So what we've got here is an A to Z list of all the models in the system. So you can see we've got Alfa, Aston Martin, Bentley, Bugatti, Chevrolet, Dodge, Ferrari, Ford, and so on. Obviously, Texas being Italian, it does excel with the Italian makes, but at the same time, it's very good with the Porsche, and it's also very good with Bentley. So what we'll do, I want to show you firstly how the system works. So for example, we'll go into Ferrari. Now you can see within the selection all of the models that we've got, so everything from sort of late 90s on the 348. I'll scroll down slowly. The D's just mean that I've got a demonstration mode. So you can see we've got California in there. Okay, and LaFerrari as well. Obviously on those sorts of cars there is a limited amount of things we can do on them, but they're listed and we can communicate with them. So what I'll do, I've picked the 612 Scaglietti because the demonstration mode actually has some faults which come up, so we can just look at how those are displayed. So I'll just pick that one there, so we click into there, so you can see it breaks it down. You've got a global system scan, so a CAN bus scan of the whole car, but it's also broken down actions on the vehicle, so whether it be vehicle maintenance, sort of standard service resets, activations or tests that you can perform on components just to make sure they're working, but also the adjustments and coding side of it, so any programming or coding or anything like that. So what we've then got underneath is a diagnosis by system. So on the 612 Scaglietti you can see there's a lot of systems that we can communicate with, pretty much all of them I would suggest. The only demonstration mode we've got is on the instrument panel, so let me just scroll down. So you've got suspensions, tyre pressure, trunk, and so on. Petrol injection, obviously engine there. So we'll go into instrument panel. And what I'll do, I'll kick it off. Just before I do, obviously it shows you a little video of where it is and it gives you a location, obviously OBD. But what we'll do a demo diagnosis on this one. So we'll just let that populate the information that it's got sort of pre-programmed. So we'll run through the process of doing that. So it's gone in quite quickly because obviously we're not actually on a vehicle. So automatically we go into the fault screen. So it's a traffic light system, so it'll just give you a bit of information on each fault there. You can see these are CAN errors. So what would happen is if we had some specific information, i.e. wiring diagrams, if you see in the bottom right hand corner for that particular error, but obviously it's a CAN line error, so you're not going to have necessarily that. We've got freeze frame data, so the 1, 2, 3 and the snowflake, that will give you, if it's available, depending on the year of the car, it'll tell you what was going on when the fault occurred. We've also got a troubleshooting forum, so if there's no more information within the system, there is a forum where there's information, for example, on P codes, U codes and so on. So for example, I could click that and it'll go into, this is the only thing you have to be on the internet for. The rest of the system operates without the internet. So you can see it populates it with all the information from there, and you can see there's some suggestions here. Well, it says here there are no results found for this particular fault, obviously because it's a CAN error. So but you can see the sorts of things. You can see the P code and then what it'll do. Well, there's a CAN error on the Spider there, but not on this particular Scaglietti. But for example, we pick that, at least you can see, so there's a diagnosis, there's a symptom, there's probable causes, and there's solutions. This certainly isn't on every fault or every P code or every B code or so on, but there's a lot of information in there to help. In addition, you've obviously got text to technical at the end of the phone, but also by email and any issues with doing things or finding things, you have us, as well as the guys in Italy, the programmers themselves. So that's there. And again, this question mark, that would highlight if there was any more information available on what that fault meant. So what you can see also, we've got some information here. We've got ECU info, so it's pulling whatever info it can from the ECU. So there's a lot of information in there that you can see on this particular one. Okay. Activations wise, like I said, talking about tests that you can do, you can turn lamps on and off, error cleaning obviously. You can see there's a lot of things that we can test there. I won't go all the way down to the bottom. And then we've got settings as well. So these are the things, so for example, service reset, oil pressure, sensor configuration, odometer reset, and so on, and disk wear 0 setting. So these are all things that we can do. Importantly, we've got the live data, so all the sensors, similar to all your other diagnostic tools. We've got a long list of 60 parameters there, or readings that we can look at. They take a moment to populate just while we're scrolling down, but you can see everything you would expect to see, plus probably things you might not. But there's quite a lot in there. I'll just scroll down again. You can see it just catches up, and so on. We've also got here what's called dashboard mode. So what it does, it puts some of that live data into a nice format that you can look at. There's only 1 or 2 pictures on here, but it can be useful, particularly if you're looking at DPFs and things like that on other vehicles, other passenger vehicles or vans. There's a lot of other features in here. We can filter the list. So for example, you just want to look at certain things, we can scroll through here and just pick a few of the things that we want, make a smaller list. Now from that list, obviously you can monitor that while the vehicle's running, but we've also got the ability to do up to a 30-minute record on however many sensors you wish, and what that will then do is produce a graph. So if you're out for half an hour, you can then come back, download the information and see what was going on. So there's a lot of other features here, but it's more about just you seeing what we can do. So if I come out of here, what we'll do, we'll go back to diagnosis. So just to go back into Supercar, so Aston Martin, I know you mentioned, you can see we've got everything here: DB7, DB9, DBS, Rapide, Vanquish, Vantage. So everything's pretty much covered. Bentley, again, obviously everything you'd expect there: Bentayga, Continental, Flying Spur, Mulsanne, yeah, okay. The other popular ones, obviously Ferrari we've looked at, Lamborghini, again, I'm not sure if there's any on the island, but again we have all of those, Aventadors, Diablos, Huracan, you name it, it's all in there. Urus as well. So and if we scroll down, obviously we've got the American makes in here as well. We've got a lot of it's a worldwide company, although originally from Italy. There's information from all over the world. Maserati, obviously, if you've got Ghiblis and Quattroportes out there, and Porsche, of course. I know there's no Porsche dealer on the island, so we've obviously got all the usual suspects. Macan, Panamera, no Taken as yet, but I'm sure that will come, as I'm sure somebody on Cayman will eventually buy one. So you can see, yeah, that we're pretty much covering everything. Now what I want to show you is basically a quick way we can see, for example, vehicle maintenance. So again, it breaks it down into category. We can go into Supercar, and again what we can now see is all the maintenance abilities we have on the vehicles listed. So for example, we go into Ferrari. If we click C, go to California, click through there. Okay, so you can see here, got a service reset, warning light reset, brake bleed, parking brake, calibrations, and TPMS, sensor management. So again, we can go back here. into Aston Martin, and again let's have a look at the Vanquish you mentioned, 13 onwards. We'll pick that one. There's a couple of options there, we'll just go for that one. So again, we've only got tyre TPMS sensor management on that Vanquish. Let's just have a look and see if we've got anything on the earlier one. No, again, so it's just tyres on that. But for example, on the Porsche, which is a good one to look at, again the 911, as you know, there's 1,000,001 different options for Porsche, but again we can scroll through here. We've got oil service resets, warning lights, battery replacement, ride height, suspension, draining, parking brake, actuator replacement. A lot of bits and pieces in there. Hopefully you get the idea from that. So the other thing we can do is also look at adjustments and coding, so obviously the programming that you can do. There will be limitations. It's an aftermarket tool, so you're not going to be able to do everything a genuine tool can do, but you can have a good go at a lot of things. So for example, again on the Ferrari, I don't know, we'll pick a 458. So you can see here, for example, we've got disk wear setting, ECU coding, engine, well, a few bits and pieces in there. I'll scroll down here, so transmission, gearbox calibrations. On a lot of the transmissions, particularly Maserati as well, it'll take you through the process of recalibrating the transmissions, which is quite good. And again, all the other bits and pieces there. So again, Aston Martin wise, yeah, we've only got the Vantage in here that we can actually do coding on. So here again, the transmission, we can do the self calibrations on those. And for Bentley, again, another good one. Okay, so you can see here again we've got a lot of the coding and replacements that we can do. I might be going down this a little bit too quickly, but you can see there's a hell of a lot here. We've got ADAS in the system, i.e. calibrating cameras, radars, things like that, but a lot of the time you need the boards and the rig to be able to let the unit calibrate from something. So that's all in the system, but obviously those are additions that you'd need to add on top. But again, you can see here there's an infinite number of jobs and adjustments that you can make there. So lastly, one thing is wiring diagrams. We've also got technical data sheets in there, so that's a variety of information, which is again very useful, but wiring diagrams are particularly good. So we head into Supercar, we'll go into Ferrari again. Let's pick a California. So these are all the wiring diagrams that we've got for the California on that particular year range, 12 to 14. So again, we can click in the engine. There's a few options there, so we can pick one of those at random, and this takes you into the Texar own wiring diagrams. So these are all interactive. You can see as I scroll across with the cursor, you can see it tells you what it is. It also gives you a location on a lot of it as to where it is. Okay. What you've also got obviously here is the main ECU. Now we can click on these. There's information on pinout, so it tells you each pin and what it goes to, which is quite useful. We've also got the actual connection readout, so you can see the layout of the pins as well. So again, quite useful. The next two are to do with oscilloscoping. There is an oscilloscope available with the Texar, which can integrate with it. So again, that will give you graphs and history or information for you to compare the readouts to. So again, you can click on these items and there's all a bit of information. Some of them will have data cards and they will then have a check sheet. So this is your sort of your guide to testing the component. So there's a lot of information about the component there, how it works, recommended checks, self-diagnosis, and so on. A lot of obviously comes to, well, you've got amps, clamps and things like that, but checking signals, continuity, and so on. So there's a lot of information in there. Obviously you've got a legend, or as well you've got wiring colours that you can look at, and then you've obviously got an A to Z of all the items in that particular diagram. So we can click on the ignition switch, it'll then take us to it, we can see an image of it, but we can also see the data card as well. And again, this will give you information on the supply lines, but again, how it works and possible electrical tests that you can carry out to get to the bottom of it. And like I said, this is the oscilloscope diagram that you would see if you had the oscilloscope feature enabled. Okay, so there's a few pages there on the engine, but hopefully that gives you an idea of sort of the level of depth when it comes to the wiring diagrams. Lastly, the other thing I wanted to show you, within the car Supercar package, you get car anyway, you can't just have the Supercar, but you also get a full auto data package. Now there's no auto data information on your Ferrari, your Lamborghini and so on, but there is a lot on Porsche. So this is your technical data and checks. So we've got mechanical data, wheel alignment information, timing gear belts, service illustrations and so on. So there's a lot of information there. Also supplementary wiring diagrams. So if there isn't necessarily one in the system, there will be some, i.e. auto data style wiring diagrams available. But mechanical data wise, you can see on the Supercar, it's just Porsche. But again, we can have a look on, well, we might as well look at Cayman. So we can look at the 2.7. So you can see mechanical data wise, there's a couple of choices there. But this is all the information that you'd need, you know, with regard to lubricants, capacities, tightening torques, all that sort of information, bolt layouts, like I said, torque settings there, tightening torques, tuning in emissions. I mean, there really is a lot of information in there, and that's generally across the board for Porsche as well as general passenger car. So there's a lot of information in there that you might not necessarily get from the dealer, or with some aggressive googling you might find it. Okay, I mean, the other thing we have here is special functions. So again, there is some key coding available. We have TPMS. There's a lot of add-ons you can get for the Texo which can work with it. Key coding obviously on a lot of the older cars, but not necessarily on the newer ones. Due to the complexity of them, it's pretty much an industry in itself. The other thing we have is the manufacturer's link and authenticated diagnosis, i.e. obviously the links to the manufacturer's websites where you can you'd have to go in and pay for an hour, a day, a week or so on, but if there's certain things available that you need through them, you can use the Texer to enable that. So for example, we've got Bentley in there, we've got the FCA group for Jaguar, so on, Maserati's in there, so yeah, Porsche as well. So again, you know, you're able to go through these normally through your normal PC, but you can use the Texer equipment to actually carry out any procedures that you want to do. So quite useful. Okay, so hopefully that's given you a bit of an idea as to what the system can do, and we'll just go back and, like I said, if there's any other models that you want to look at in more detail, certainly let me know.